Good morning. My first order of business is to encourage you to silence your cell phones or any device that might beep during this program. Thank you. Welcome to the 4th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day program, sponsored by the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion team at Cedarfield. I am Barbara Fiske, the coordinator of the DEI team. In the United States, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed annually on the 3rd Monday of January. This day commemorates the life and work of Dr. King, who was a Baptist minister and a prominent leader in the American Civil Rights Movement. We honor Dr. King and reflect on the principles of racial equality and nonviolent social changes, including fair housing. Dr. King was born on January 15, 1929. If he had lived, he would be 94 years old this year. During his lifetime, he rose to the forefront of the civil rights movement in 1955 with the Montgomery bus boycott. Dr. King was an advocate of Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of using nonviolent resistance to effect social change. Dr. King promoted the use of nonviolent means to bring an end to racial segregation in the United States. Most Americans are unaware of the role Dr. King played in the fair housing movement. Dr. King recognized the discrimination and racial injustice in housing for Black Americans. So he advocated for open housing, the right for Black Americans to buy homes anywhere they wished. The most significant and far-reaching outcome of his efforts was the passage of the Fair Housing Act in 1968, 1 week after his assassination on April 4, 1968. On this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we are inspired to fight for equality and justice exemplified by Dr. King, particularly in fair housing. In 1964, Dr. King was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace for all these efforts. This morning, we welcome One Voice Chorus of Richmond to join us in honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These singers will present choral music for our community as they promote the work of racial reconciliation and healing. This group is led by John McLean, their artistic director. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We are delighted to be here and happy Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. We should all be very, very elated to celebrate this day. It's not something that we should take for granted. And believe me, I do not. I wasn't supposed to speak, but we need to get situated. So I really am excited to have this opportunity with you. As you know, Martin Luther King was... Some of you cannot hear me? Okay. You need to use the mic.
I'm not going to start over. We are delighted to be here today, and I wasn't supposed to speak, but we needed to get situated. We are the One Voice Chorus, and we embody, I would think, the DEI mission. We are hoping that you will enjoy the way that we reflect diversity, equality, and most importantly, Martin Luther King's philosophy through our singing. The most important aspect of singing, other than the beauty of the voices, are the words. And so we hope that you will listen with intent as we try to give meaning to this text. We honor his spirit and his philosophy through this repertoire. Though not all of it represents the music of the Baptist church. You know, he was a Baptist minister. But we will begin with a couple of selections that will remind you, those of you who have been to an African American church, Baptist church, what that tradition holds. I'm Jack McLean, and I will speak with you briefly, but we'll do more speaking than singing. So thanks for having us. And so, let the heaven light, the heaven light is shining on us this morning, beautifully. In the Baptist tradition, there's always a processional or an opening to the worship service. This is not a worship service, but let us worship together. Let us enjoy this journey, this musical journey. The next selection is Blessed Be the Name of the Lord. This is an anthem by Mr. Grotenhuis, and it is a wonderful representation of the choral repertoire from the 70s and 80s. Again, embodying the spirit of Dr. King. I think you'll enjoy the text.
Praise the name of the Lord.
time forth, from this time forth and forevermore. From the rising of the sun, rising of the sun, to the going down of the same, praise, blessed, blessed be the Lord. From this time forth, from this time forth and forever. From the rising of the sun, from the rising of the sun, to the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Very much. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Such a wonderful, uplifting text. We would like to follow it with a return to the Baptist worship service. I know you're not all Baptist. I understand that. We're just sharing this tradition. There's always that meaningful morning prayer, which helps to open our hearts and minds to the Word. Martin Luther King was extremely masterful at that. The opening selection, Let the Heaven Light Shine on Me, and this selection were arranged by Roland Carter, Roland Carter is an African-American, a living African-American composer who spent the majority of his career at Hampton University down the street here. And he has many, many arrangements, but this was written particularly in mind of the Baptist worship service and with Dr. Martin Luther King in mind. This is a prayer. Come here, Jesus, if you please.
Yes.
And now, in the spirit of the civil rights movement, we will do one of the most familiar and I think defining texts of the 60s, late 50s and 60s. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that you are seasoned. So you were living during that time and you remember all of the volatility that was going on during that period. I'm a product of that period. My mother and father were born in the 20s. And so they went through a lot of what led to the civil rights movement. I'm a product of that. A lot of my colleagues here and you were a product of that. And I was one of the first to integrate schools in the mid-60s in elementary school. This spiritual Walk Together Children is such a descriptive text about persevering and continuing to fight oppression, discrimination, hatred, All of those things that have suddenly resurfaced. Isn't it amazing? I thought we had made such progress, and we are still making progress, but my goodness, why do we always have to go back? Let's go forward. Let's strive to go forward. So that is what this text is all about, to persevere through oppression and to celebrate love.
There's a great camp meeting. There's a great camp meeting. Great camp meeting in the promised land.
Just for one excellent.
Don't you get weary? There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Walk together, children. Don't you get weary? Walk on, children. Don't you get weary? Just walk together, children. Don't you get weary? There's a great camp meeting in the promised land.
Forgive my stomping. I'm sorry. I got a little excited there. That's a nice hollow floor that provides a nice drum. But don't you hear the spirit in that piece? Walk together, children. Sing together, children. Shout together, children. Because we're all headed to that great camp meeting. And I think of it as the great camp meeting right here. Right? We're celebrating the promise of what's to come. And we're fighting for that same promise. This is a continuation of that idea, different text, different style, but I think just as significant. The morning trumpet.
Oh, when shall I sing Jesus and reign with him sound in that morning. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound in that morning. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound in that trumpet, the trumpet, the trumpet, the trumpet, the trumpet, the soldier, the hands are before, and I hear the trumpet sound in that trumpet, the trumpet. He's giving me my arms and he bids me at the door, till I hear the trumpet sound in that trumpet, the trumpet. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound in that morning. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound in that morning, that morning, that morning, that morning. When shall I be delivered from this pain of the sin, and shall hear the trumpet sound in that morning, that morning, and with my blessed Jesus defend his pleasures in, and shall hear the trumpet sound in that morning, that morning. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound in that morning. Oh, shout with glory, I shall mount above the skies when I hear the trumpet sound. Sound in that morning, in that morning, in that morning, in that morning, in that morning.
Road home? Can we do it? Ladies and gentlemen, the road home. More recent, written probably in the first decade of this century. Can you believe it's the 21st century? I'm sorry, I thought I could be heard.
I'm sorry, I thought I could be heard. This selection, The Road Home, is a favorite of mine. And again, the text is so significant. As we travel this road of life, there's much to consider. And we are on the back end of life, there is even more to consider. This was written probably in the first 5 years of the 21st century. And I asked you a question, can you believe this is the 21st century? Isn't that something? That's amazing. You remember so much that we were anticipating, and now we're actually 20 years into the 21st century. The road home.
Is the road I am
Again, thank you so much for having us as a part of your program. It has been a privilege to be a part of it, and we look forward to our distinguished speaker to follow. We are going to end with "The Storm is Passing Over," which is back to that Baptist tradition, more in a gospel spirit. Again, the words are so meaningful with regard to the storm of life and the fact that even through difficulty, the storm passes over and then we see this. Thank you for having us. I hope you'll have us again, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. You can hear me now, right? Yeah. Okay. That was beautiful. Thank you. Oh, yes. Good morning. I'm Carter McDowell. I'm here to introduce our speaker. Since arriving at Cedarfield a year and a half ago, I have wanted all of you to know about Better Housing Coalition. I keep getting away from the microphone. Okay. BHC has been working to support for over 30 years to build good quality, affordable housing and provide support services to citizens in Richmond, in the whole area, who earn less than the metro median income. Last fall, 20 of you took a bus tour of 3 of BHC's neighborhoods. So, some of you know a little bit about Better Housing Coalition, but you don't know Greta. So now here's your chance. Greta Harris is president and CEO of Better Housing Coalition. Before starting her professional life, she earned a BA in architecture from VPI and an MS in architecture and urban design from Columbia University. Then, before settling in Richmond, she served as vice president of the Local Initiative Support Corporation, a national nonprofit community development corporation, where she led offices in southern and midwestern regions. During her 9 years in Richmond, she has positioned Better Housing Coalition as a key nonprofit in the production of affordable housing. She herself is now a respected community leader. I have here a list of her accolades. It's very long, so I won't read it now. I want you to meet Greta. So here she is.
Good morning, and thank you, Carter, for those kind words. I'm really happy to be with you today. 55 years ago, my 3 sisters and I would split our time between 2 sets of grandparents who lived in Red Oak, Virginia, and Buffalo Junction, Virginia. And those are real places here. During summer breaks or extended weekends, it would give our parents a break, and we would have fun hanging out with our grandparents' respective tobacco farms. I really love spending time in either place. It was so liberating. Whether it was collecting eggs, or feeding chickens and hogs, or fishing in the pond in the woods, or helping to milk the cows, or pick pears from the trees, or digging up potatoes in the garden, or even riding horses bareback once the chores are all done. It was a kid's paradise. I especially liked taking turns laying in the grass while someone else pumped fresh water into my face from the front yard well, or going to the double-seater outhouse, which I thought was really cool, but my 3 sisters not so much. On chilly evenings, our grandmother would lay us in the beds upstairs and put handmade quilts on top of us that were so heavy we could hardly move. And I'm grateful that each of my sisters and I each have one of our grandmother's quilts. The food, the care, and the love that was so bountiful on the farm made every visit magical for us. When our parents would pick us up, We headed back home to segregated Danville, Virginia, where our mom was a school principal in the black school system, and our dad was an executive at a black-owned bank. I remember the many meetings that were held in our living room of black men and women who would dress to the T in suits and smoking cigarettes. My sisters and I didn't fully understand that they were organizing meetings of community leaders that were advancing civil rights protests happening in our city. Our church, High Street Baptist Church, was the headquarters for these activities, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. visited our church twice to give advice and encouragement for the fights ahead. Sometimes my sisters and I would wake up and there would be black and white strangers sleeping in our home. We later learned that they were lawyers from Detroit and New York and DC that were on their way to Birmingham, Selma, or Atlanta to help with other protests that were happening in lots of places. Because of Jim Crow laws at the time, there were limited places where blacks and Jews could stay in the South, so people like our parents offered their home for safe lodging. Despite living through times of great disparities, our parents, grandparents, and extended family members created a wonderful place for us to call home. We felt safe, we felt loved, we had fun and could be kids. We felt pride in where we lived. We were taught values, and we were held accountable for meeting family expectations. We were encouraged to dream no small dreams, and were told that we could accomplish whatever we dared to do. Home was a launching pad for everything else we hoped to achieve in our lives. I'm sure each of you can share different stories about your home and its importance to you and your family for helping to realize your dreams too. I started off with a timeline of 55 years ago. That would put us in 1968. I was 8 years old at the time, and Dr. King was assassinated that year. I remember our parents and their friends crying and being so sad about that news. And I remember their resolve that the work must go on so that opportunity access could be experienced by not only blacks, but for anyone who called America home. 1 week after Dr. King's death, the 1968 Fair Housing Act, as part of the extended 1964 Civil Rights Act, was passed into law. The legislation stated that if you were looking for housing, you could not be discriminated against because of the color of your skin, the religion you practiced, the place of your origin, your sex, or your family status. The law is still in effect today, and we work hard to implement its intent so that everyone has a good place to call home. Today, we celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and lift him up as an ordinary man who was courageous enough to do extraordinary things. His motivation was not for money, nor power, nor fame, but simply justice for all. It sounds like such a humble and achievable goal, but it's not an easy goal to accomplish at all. Since the founding of this amazing country, the ideals that were lifted up as a beacon to all around the world, equal opportunity access to the American dream was not afforded to everyone. Women, all people of color, and the impoverished were initially seen as less than and were not able to avail themselves of the bounty that was and still is America. For a host of reasons, some leaders shared a perspective of scarcity instead of abundance, in that they thought that their share of the American pie would be diminished rather than the pie getting bigger if more people could find success. Dr. King believed, as do I, that we all do better when we all do better. We can unleash our innate talents that we all have if opportunity access barriers are removed and we value each other as human beings. As a country, we have made measurable progress over the last few decades and even the last few centuries. However, there is much more work to be done in bringing equal opportunity access to healthcare, educational pursuits, and economic mobility. Additionally, these areas become much more difficult to advance when families don't know where they're going to lay their head at night. Good housing is so fundamental that everything else falls apart without it. I feel so fortunate that I had a home that was full of security, love, joy, belonging, and encouragement. I would imagine that many of you feel the same way. Unfortunately, too many of our neighbors don't have this simple but critical element that allows them to thrive and become their best selves. America currently is in a housing crisis, both now from a perspective of availability and affordability. The U.S. housing market has not fully recovered from the Great Recession of 2008, and we are millions of housing starts behind in basic supply economics. Additionally, there is a widening gap between the haves and have-nots from a prosperity lens. The middle class is being squeezed with rising inflation, student debt, and increasing economic uncertainty. The plight of lower wage employees was revealed during the beginning of the pandemic that showcased how many essential workers are living on a financial cliff. In the last 5 years, housing costs have skyrocketed nearly 150%, with wages lagging behind, such that many neighbors find themselves paying 50 to 70% of their monthly income just on housing. The affordable housing issue is real in our region, throughout the Commonwealth, and across the country. A typical affordable housing unit costs nearly $250,000 to produce here in Richmond, $450,000 in Northern Virginia, and more than $750,000 on the West Coast. Land, labor, materials, financing, and regulatory costs are all increasing as we work to serve modest income households with quality housing at an affordable price. Today, there is greater awareness about the need for more affordable housing for childcare workers, certified nursing assistants, teachers, food service workers, drivers, emergency response workers, local government staff, housekeeping workers, retail staff, restaurant servers, nonprofit staff, artists, and many more. Do you know of anyone who does these jobs? They need affordable housing. And today, everyone is for more affordable housing until it's proposed to come into their neighborhood. And then people sometimes lose their humanity by opposing new residents from living nearby, just because they're from different backgrounds or a different socioeconomic class. We call this NIMBY, not in my backyard. America's housing crisis is big and complex, and it will take a long time to fully address to bring justice and opportunity access for all. We again acknowledge that Dr. King was an ordinary man who had the courage to do extraordinary things. But he was not alone. in that we all have the ability to do extraordinary things to try to bring justice to more individuals in need, just in our own way. So if you care about the planet, or you care about children's well-being, or you care about educational access, or you care about animals, or you care about economic development, or you care about racial justice, then please be courageous enough to try something. You never know how a little seed of an idea can turn into something really, really big. And let me just share one example with you. Just over 35 years ago, two friends, Mary Tyler Cheek McClanahan and our own Carter McDowell, had a seed of an idea, and they had the courage to do something extraordinary, just like Dr. King. They wanted to ensure that all Richmond families had a good place to call home and so that they could thrive. In an inclusive manner, they gathered others around them and started the Better Housing Coalition to advocate for improved local housing policies and resources. As their collaborative continued to grow, so did the impacts in Richmond neighborhoods, sometimes long forgotten and ravaged by neglect. Small progress saw bigger progress, and bigger progress saw sustained progress, such that 3.5 decades later, their seed of an idea has served nearly 20,000 lower income individuals with quality, service-enriched housing at an affordable price, and has invested over $300 million into our regional economy. What's more important, they started and created a strong and accountable organization that is continuing to serve our community today and well into the future. When I think back to the times that I spent at my grandparents' farms and the times I shared with my family in Danville, I feel so blessed because of the love and support I received from home. It indeed was my launching pad to further my education, to grow my career, to serve my fellow neighbor, to travel the world, and for me to thrive. It is my great honor to lead the Better Housing Coalition and its community building mission that was seeded with an idea by two women who were brave enough to try to make a difference in our community. We all have the ability to make the world a bit better than when we joined it, and we all have the ability to give others hope that the future can be brighter than the present. Dr. King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Our shared America is amazing, and we still have challenges to ensure our founding ideals are realized and fully available to all. I encourage each of us to be courageous and make a tangible difference in the world. Service to others is our purpose for being here on earth. Thank you very much, and I am reminded that Better Housing Coalition will be conducting another tour of some of our communities in the spring, and we would encourage you to reach out to Carter and others and join us. We're very proud of the work that we do, and I'm grateful to have my colleagues Lynn and Stacy here with me. We have a lot of fun. We're trying to do good in the community. Thank you.
Let us raise our voices in song. Please stand if you are able. have some fun with If I Had a Hammer. Are you ready? Yes. Everybody ready? All right, sing out. All right. Let's get the beat first. All right. All right, we got it. Here we go. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Now what do we got? A bell, right? If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Now we got a song. If I had a song, yeah, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. What'd you sing out? I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Now we got all of them, right? Here we go. Now if I had a hammer, I've got a bell, and I've got a bell, and I got a song, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about love between the brothers and the sisters, all over this land, 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 all over this
Carter and I would like to thank every member who was present, not only in this audience in our fellowship hall, but on Channel 971 with live streaming. We are especially grateful to Jack, the pianist, the soloist, and all of the singers of One Voice Chorus. Thank you ever so much. And we thank Greta Harris for all her kind words of her personal journey and the personal life of Dr. King. Thank you, Greta, so much. And Greta and I will be inviting all the residents through Touchtown and through the Informer about the spring tour of the housing sites of Better Housing Coalition. And in Dr. King's memory, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. Happy King Day.
For the opportunity here.
Hey, you all right? Good to see you. Are you in the choir? Oh, okay.